In this module, we'll talk about the use and status of English in East Asian countries. Some of the major countries which are situated in East Asia include China, Japan, North and South Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. These countries, in terms of English language users, fall in the expanding circle. In expanding circle, English is used as a foreign language, which means it is not the official language and it is not the medium of education either. Whereas in outer circle countries, it is often the official language and is also the medium of instruction in education. However, it is gradually in these countries as well, which are a part of the expanding circle, has become a strong requirement in education and is also encouraged at a certain level of schooling, especially at the higher education level, not only schooling but also at higher education level. It is also used in restricted social domains, though it is not an official language, so it's not used in government domains, but it is used in quite a few social domains, and it is becoming quite fashionable in countries like China and Korea to use English for social purposes. And in these countries, like in Pakistan, people show a preference for hiring nannies for their children who are English speaking. In Pakistan, many people who can afford to hire a Filipino nanny, they hire these nannies so that their children are exposed to English. Similarly, in these East Asian countries where people can afford, they hire English-speaking nannies to expose their children to more and more English. So English is being used in these countries as well for several social purposes. In the expanding circle, it is often these social, cultural, and economic, and more than that, political factors which determine the degree and kind of English to be used and therefore learned. For example, we see that in China, English education was introduced only after the Cultural Revolution finished in 1979, and China adopted a more open door policy. Before that, English was not welcomed in China, neither learning nor use. But now we see that there's a widespread and frequent use of English even in these countries. And English has also had a very noticeable, a strong impact on the languages with which it is used in the expanding circle in East Asia, and not only varieties of language but also the writing system of these languages. The current state of English language learning or the use of English in East Asia shows that there is a considerable increase in the number of students learning English. There are almost 300 million people struggling to learn English in China. There are also lots of people showing preference for learning English in Japan. In fact, Japan has started an English-speaking Japanese development project of its own to make it easier for people to learn English. And in Korea and Taiwan also, we see lots of efforts being made to strengthen the teaching of English at the primary school level. As a result of this increasing use of English in these expanding circle countries, which are situated in East Asia, it is very likely that national varieties will emerge, especially in countries where English is used intranationally, where English is used within these countries for communication among people who have different first languages. So there's a very strong possibility that national varieties will emerge now even in East Asia. And there are quite a few indicators actually of national varieties emerging in East Asian countries. This widespread use and the preference people show for English now. There's also a lot of effort being made to increase exposure to English using environments. One example I just gave, that people who can afford it hire English speaking nannies. Then lots of sitcoms in English are broadcast in these countries now, and people watch them with a lot of interest. There's also a lot of increase in the readership of books published in English in these countries.